出市场就被警察抓了，哼，明明证件齐全。
I just stepped out of the market and got stopped by the police. My documents were all in order, but they still accused me of having issues and immediately demanded 50,000 rubles. When I refused to pay, they smirked and threatened to take me to the police station to wait for deportation. They specifically target Chinese people, claiming there are problems with their passport names or pinyin just to find ways to extort more money. The moment I handed over the cash, their attitude changed completely. They grinned and said, "Welcome to Russia." A Chinese vlogger known as Sister Ting posted a video on February 24th, saying that this was the third time she had been extorted in Russia. She hopes Chinese people who admire Russia will wake up to the reality. Recently, the world has been in chaos, and many pro-Russia Chinese have been deeply worried. They're realizing that the so-called unbreakable relationship with no limits between the two countries seems to be changing.
Russia is turning upside down, and the status of Chinese people here is completely gone. Last night, a group of Russians claiming to be from an animal protection association tricked one of my workers into opening the gate. As soon as they got in, they started filming with their phones, accusing Chinese people of abusing dogs and eating dog meat. Back during the Russian-Ukraine war, China and Russia were still friendly. My son even represented the Chinese community at the city government for a reading event. But now, even owning a dog as a Chinese person in Russia has become a problem. They say we eat dogs. Have you ever seen me eat a dog? I have so many followers who can vouch for me. These dogs are all rescues. Last night, a whole crowd surrounded my house for hours. The one recording me was a Russian influencer, trying to make me a target for his own fame. Let me tell you, influencers are the best at sensing political shifts. The moment Russia started getting close to the US, they began saying Chinese people are low class, that we eat dogs, and even that Chinese cars aren't good enough to sell anymore. A few years ago, Russians acted like they loved China more than I did, but overnight, their attitude completely changed.
Finally, the pro-Russia crowd in China has received their biggest shock. Russia is about to launch a full-scale crackdown on Chinese people. For them, this news is like a thunderbolt out of nowhere. On February 25th, a user on X summarized 8 major recent developments between Russia and China. First, all cargo passing through Russia on the China-Europe international route has been seized by Russian authorities. The only options are to pay hefty fines or forfeit everything. 2. Russian authorities have halted imports of Chinese cars, citing quality issues, and are demanding huge compensation from Chinese manufacturers. Russia and North Korea have jointly built a bridge over the Tumen River, completely blocking China's northern access to the sea. Looking at a map, you can see that Hunchun City in China's Jilin province is only a dozen kilometers from the Sea of Japan. But this final stretch of land is within Russian and North Korean territory, with the Tumen River serving as the border. Under normal circumstances, Jilin ships could sail down the Tumen River to the sea, significantly shortening the journey. However, Russia and North Korea built a low bridge downstream, less than 10 meters above the water. It seems deliberately designed to prevent large Chinese ships from passing. Russia and North Korea are now planning to build a second bridge over the Tumen River, about 500 meters downstream from the existing railway bridge. What's even worse is that this new bridge will only be 8 meters high, even lower than the original railway bridge. It feels like a deliberate move to completely cut off China's access to the sea through the Tumen River. In response, China has started countermeasures against Russia. Besides suspending imports of Russian wheat, China has also halted imports of natural gas and oil. 5. China has officially revealed that back in 2011, the Chinese Communist Party secretly established a strategic partnership with Ukraine. 6. Russia has publicly stated that the Russia-Ukraine war was instigated by a certain country that is now willing to negotiate peace while working with the US and Western countries to reorganize the Asia-Pacific order. 7. China's ambassador to Ukraine, Ma Shen-kun, has openly declared support for Ukraine's territorial integrity. 8. Russia has announced that it will release historical archives from the former Soviet Union and China at the appropriate time. The comment section on the platform was buzzing. Some people said, "I'm really looking forward to this last point. That would be a game changer." Others commented, "Isn't this the true nature of the China-Russia relationship? Looks like things are finally returning to normal." One user joked, "I'm worried about those pro-Russia Chinese fans right now. Their brains must be overheating. If a computer crashes, you can reboot it, but if their brains burn out, can they be fixed?" At the same time, a wave of pro-CCP internet trolls known as the 50 Cent Army flooded the comment section with insults and attempts to debunk the claims. However, most of them had poor language skills, resorting to crude and vulgar attacks. making them easy to identify. One user pointed out, most of what's in the post is factual. There's actually a reliable way to judge whether information is true and important. Just look at the CCP's internet trolls. The more hysterical the reaction, the more likely the information is accurate and significant. And of course, there's an even more direct way to see the reality. Several Chinese students and influencers living in Russia have recently posted videos, delivering a serious blow to pro-Russia supporters. Let's take a look at some of their experiences. A Chinese student shared his thoughts on Russian women.
I've been studying in Russia for 5 years, and people often ask me, are Russian girls really easy to get? Is it easy to make money in Russia? Let me share my experience from 5 years of studying and starting a business here. There are so many accounts on the internet claiming that Russian women love Chinese men, and that they even throw themselves at us. Don't let it brainwash you. Russian women prefer tall, strong white men. They are not interested in Chinese men. Let me say it again, they really do not like Chinese men. Even if they do like Asian men, they prefer Japanese or Korean guys. That's because Japanese anime culture and Korean pulp culture have a deep influence in Russia. Some young Russians are genuinely into that. Some Russian women actually run scams, tricking naive international students. They pretend to be friendly, but are just looking for a free meal. They know some Chinese guys are eager to befriend Russian women, so they play along. You like Russian girls? You want to be friends with us? Then buy me dinner. It's only fair, right?
The student shared his experience. In Russia, doing business with Russians can be very difficult. If you're running a small business and making around 1 or 2 million rubles a year, no one will bother you. But the moment you try to expand and start making tens or hundreds of millions, different government departments will start giving you trouble. For example, if you open a restaurant with an investment of a few million rubles, first the business bureau will come for inspections, then the tax authorities, and after that, the local police will find reasons to get involved. And do you really think that China and Russia have a friendly relationship? The reality is that their political ties may seem warm, but their economic relationship is cold. If you walk around in Russia, you'll run into corrupt police officers who stop you, claiming that you don't have your passport or the right documents, and fine you on the spots, 5,000 rubles. That's nearly 500 yuan, or 68 US dollars. And for business owners in China who want to trade with Russia, here's what happens. You ship your goods over first, and then whether or not you get paid the rest of your money depends entirely on their mood. Now let's take a look at another Chinese student's experience.
A while ago, I went shopping at a small mall in St. Petersburg. There weren't many Chinese people there. As I was walking with a friend, a Russian passed by and muttered an insulting remark. At first, we were confused, but then we confronted him. We were really angry. If we eat at restaurants in Russia, the staff's attitude towards Chinese people is often unfriendly. I personally think that many Russians, especially the older generation from the Soviet era, have always looked down on Chinese people. Take Vladivostok, for example. Its Russian name, Fratoist-Torka, translates to conquer the East. That tells you everything. The older generation of Russians is still living in a dream stuck in the Soviet Union era. They've always believed that they are proud Russians, that they belong to Europe, and that they should be part of NATO. The truth is, the relationship between China and Russia is just about mutual interests. They use each other to counterbalance the US. Some people might ask, if Russia is so bad, why did you still choose to study there? The reality is life in Russia is tough. We spend so much money here, but don't get the same quality of life and services as we would in China. On top of that, we have to endure discrimination. But my family is just average. We couldn't afford to send me to the US, UK, Australia, or Canada. If I had the choice, I wouldn't even consider Russia.
Many online commentators agreed, saying that this young man had spoken the truth. The real relationship between China and Russia is one of mutual use and mutual contempt. Another student shared,
If you still think Russia treats Chinese people well, that they see us as VIPs, or that they greet us with ni hao when they see us, you're living in a fantasy. The only people who say ni hao to you are those dressed up as czar characters in tourist spots or people in mascot costumes. And after they say ni hao, they'll ask to take a picture with you, then charge you 5,000 rubles per photo. If they see you carrying a lot of cash, they might even raise the price to 10,000 rubles. Nowadays, it's not just Chinese people scamming other Chinese abroad. Foreigners have learned the trick too. They know how to scam Chinese people as well.
The student explained that corruption and inefficiency in Russia are serious problems. Many business owners have told him that getting payments from Russian partners is extremely slow, and even their creditworthiness is highly questionable. If you're going to do business in Russia, you must find someone with influence in the country, someone who can help you navigate the challenges. If you blindly enter the Russian market without such a connection, you're almost guaranteed to lose everything. He also mentioned that some people in China think that they can go to Russia, spend a few thousand yuan, marry a Russian wife, and have a mixed-race child, but in reality, it's not that simple. He said, once you spend that money, it's gone, just like spending a bride price in China. Honestly, it's more practical to marry a Chinese woman at home. Some people go abroad with unrealistic fantasies, but do you think Russians don't have internet? Do you think they don't browse Chinese social media? Russians know exactly what's on your mind. Some people are just fooling themselves. Those little schemes that some Chinese bachelors come up with, Russian women have seen them all before. In the end, he emphasized that if you're going to Russia, the first thing you need to do is learn Russian, because the country is extremely xenophobic.
他现在甚至出台立法，在公共场合是不准用英语的。
If you don't speak Russian, you won't be able to do anything in Russia. The country has even passed laws banning the use of English in public places. English is an international language, and they still won't allow it. Russia is really becoming hopeless.
Despite this, Chinese social media is still flooded with videos claiming things like, a Russian beauty approached a Chinese man first, or why Russian women love Chinese guys. Some gullible people in China actually believe these stories and end up being pro-Russia supporters, manipulated by the CCP. Of course, no country is entirely one-sided. There are both friendly and unfriendly people everywhere. Some Russians are genuinely nice to Chinese people, and there are even a few Russian women who have married into China. However, the overall attitude of Russian society towards China is very different from the narrative pushed by the Chinese government. And what's even more shocking is how quickly the Russian government can change its stance. On February 24th, a major piece of news came out of Russia. President Vladimir Putin expressed support for a proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump, cutting military budgets in Russia, the U.S., and China by half. Putin said that Trump's idea was a good one, but he couldn't speak on behalf of Xi Jinping. However, Russia was ready to discuss the issue and could reach an agreement with the U.S. Some online analysts believe that the underlying message in Putin and Trump's agreement is that Russia is moving towards a strategic reconciliation with the U.S., possibly even forming an alliance. In that case, if both countries cut their military budgets in half, they would no longer see each other as threats or enemies. What's even more striking is that Putin seems to be deliberately positioning Xi Jinping as the odd one out. He even implied that if Xi refuses to cut China's military budget, it wouldn't matter, because the combined military power of the US and Russia, even at half strength, would still be more than enough to handle the Chinese Communist Party. This is Putin's way of using Russian diplomatic language to send a clear message to Xi. To make sure Xi fully understands his intentions, Putin didn't just endorse military budget cuts. He also extended a major economic olive branch to the U.S. He promises a joint development project for Russia's rare earth resources, offering to supply them to the U.S. Putin stated that Russia doesn't care about any potential agreements between the U.S. and Ukraine on rare earths. He emphasized that Russia's rare earth metal reserves are an order of magnitude larger than Ukraine's, and that Moscow is willing to collaborate with foreign partners, including the United States, to develop these resources. The rare earth trade deal could even include deposits in Russia-occupied eastern Ukraine. This is a significant move because earth minerals have been one of China's strongest weapons against the U.S. Back in early December 2024, the Chinese Communist Party banned exports of key minerals like gallium, germanium, and antimony to the U.S., materials with crucial military applications. More recently, China's Ministry of Commerce announced even stricter controls on exporting certain rare earth minerals to the U.S. Securing rare earth resources has been one of Trump's top priorities in countering China. Since taking office, he has been scrambling to find alternative sources, from Greenland to Ukraine, to break free from China's grip. No one expected that Putin would hand Trump exactly what he wanted on a silver platter. With this move, Xi Jinping's last bargaining chip has been completely neutralized. For pro-Russia supporters in China, the rising anti-Chinese sentiment in Russia may take some time to sink in. But for Xi Jinping, Putin's gift of rare earth is the real betrayal. This isn't just an anti-China sentiment, it's a direct attack on the CCP itself. It remains to be seen how Xi Jinping will digest this unexpected blow.